Zane's earliest memories were of swirling colors and the hum of engines, sounds and sights that most children could never even imagine. Growing up on the planet Valtira, a world far beyond Earth's reach, he was different from everyone else. His skin was lighter than his parents', a faint blend of earthly hues mixed with the iridescence of the alien genetics that ran through his veins. His parents weren't human. They were Valtirans, a species with elongated limbs, glowing skin, and the ability to manipulate gravity. They could move with a grace that seemed more like floating than walking. Zane's home was a crystalline city nestled between glowing, bioluminescent trees. The city floated high above a sea of shimmering waters, their tides rising and falling with the ebb and flow of the planet's magnetic fields. Zane had never seen another human, but that didn't bother him. His parents, Taylor and Lyra, had always treated him with love and care. They'd raised him to understand that he was special, and that one day, when the time came, he would leave their planet to find his true origins. Zane, Lyra would say, her voice soft like the wind that carried through the floating city's domes, you were meant for something bigger than this world. You're a part of both us and something else. Your journey will take you farther than even we can imagine. Taylor, who spent most of his days navigating through the intricate pathways of their intergalactic technology, would sometimes pause his work to smile at his son. You will one day pilot a ship, my son. A ship that can carry you across galaxies. We'll teach you everything. Growing up, Zane was surrounded by the wonders of Valtira. The floating platforms that carried people between the crystalline towers, the fields of plants that could alter their color and shape based on a person's emotions, and the animals, shape-shifting creatures that seemed to vanish into the air the moment they were seen. It was a beautiful world, but Zane always felt something pulling at him, something beyond the beauty of his surroundings. The constant question that hung over him: who am I really? When Zane turned 10, his parents took him on a journey that would forever change his life. They traveled in one of the massive ships of the Valtirans, which could bend space itself and cut across the vastness of the galaxy in mere moments. For the first time, Zane saw the true size of the universe, endless stretches of stars, planets, and nebulae, all twinkling like diamonds in the black fabric of space. During that trip, Zane had asked his parents the question that had been bothering him since his earliest memories. Why did you come to Valtira? Where did you come from? Taylor had looked at him with a sadness in his eyes that Zane had never seen before. We came to Valtira because it was safe. We came here when Earth became too dangerous for us to remain. Your mother and I, well, we've lived many lives in many places. But we never wanted to leave you on your own. Lyra had squeezed his shoulder. You're the bridge between our worlds, Zane. And one day, when you're ready, you'll find your way to Earth. You'll find us. As Zane grew older, that promise of a journey to Earth became the driving force behind his every waking moment. He studied the ancient texts and intergalactic blueprints his parents had shared with him, learning about the ships that could travel light years. He learned how to build and repair technology, honing skills far beyond what his peers could accomplish. He was determined to construct a ship of his own, one that would take him to the place his parents had called home. The day he turned 20, Zane finally felt ready. He had spent the past few years working on a project in secret. It was an old Valtiran design, one that had never been fully realized, a ship that could combine Valtiran technology with his own innovations. He had poured every ounce of his energy into it, fueled by the dreams of seeing the world his parents had left behind. The ship was sleek, a metallic body with angular wings that folded like a bird's, able to travel through any environment, space, atmosphere, or even underground. The day the ship was completed, Zane stood before it, heart racing with anticipation. His parents stood behind him, their eyes filled with pride and quiet sadness. Are you sure, son? Taylor asked, his voice low. The journey to Earth will be difficult. You may face dangers we can't predict. Zane turned to face them, his eyes shining with a mixture of excitement and resolve. I have to go. I have to find you. I have to find out who I am. Lyra walked up to him and embraced him, her glowing skin radiating warmth. "You will find your way, Zane. But remember, Earth may not be what you expect. Things have changed. A lot of time has passed since we left." "I know," Zane said, looking up at the stars above. "But I can't stay here forever. It's time." With one final hug from his parents, Zane climbed into the cockpit of his ship, his heart pounding with excitement. The controls hummed beneath his fingers as the ship's engines came to life. The Valtiran city below him faded as he lifted off into the skies, soaring higher and higher until the planet became just a distant blue sphere behind him. His course was set for Earth, but Zane had no idea what awaited him there. The first few days in the vastness of space were exhilarating, yet lonely. Zane sat in the cockpit of his ship, his fingers dancing over the controls with practiced ease. His ship, which he had lovingly named Solara, hummed beneath him like a living thing, every system responding to his commands. He'd never felt more free, more alive. For the first time, he was alone with his thoughts, and the endless stretch of stars that glistened before him. He had left Valtira behind, but the reality of his mission was still sinking in. The journey to Earth would take years. The galaxy was vast, its roads countless and unknown, but Zane was determined to succeed. His parents' words echoed in his mind, guiding him as the ship sped further into the unknown. As the days turned to weeks, Zane kept himself occupied with maintaining Solara, adjusting its course and navigating through asteroid fields and ion storms. He also spent his time studying ancient texts on Earth, texts that his parents had given him before he left. The pages were filled with old, fragmented records of the planet's history, written in a language Zane didn't fully understand, but the images spoke to him. Photos of green forests, oceans that stretched to the horizon, mountains towering above cities. Earth seemed so different from the bright, alien world he had known. "Earth," Zane whispered to himself one quiet evening as he gazed out of the ship's viewport. "What happened to you? What happened to my parents?" The silence of space pressed in around him, and for a moment, Zane felt the weight of the universe on his shoulders. Earth wasn't just a place. No, it was his heritage, his missing link, the home of the beings who had given him life. But now it was a mystery, a distant and unreachable land full of questions. But then, just as quickly as doubt crept in, determination returned. "I'll find them," Zane whispered with conviction. "I'll find out what happened." He had been taught to trust his instincts, to never give up on a goal once it was set. He knew Earth was out there, somewhere. And so, he set his ship's course on the trajectory he believed was correct, hoping his calculations and his Valtiran training would guide him. As time passed, the stars became his companions, their constellations changing as he traveled through different sectors of space. He encountered strange anomalies, black holes that seemed to devour light, distant nebulae that shimmered with vibrant hues. But none of these things could distract him from his ultimate mission. Zane's journey wasn't without its challenges. He encountered hostile space pirates who attempted to board his ship, their ships creaking with the weight of centuries-old technology. But Zane had been trained by the best. With a quick flick of the ship's controls, he activated Solara's shields and counterattacked, using his ship's superior speed and agility to outmaneuver the pirates. When they retreated, their warning shots echoing in the void, Zane's heart raced, not from fear, but from the exhilaration of the chase. This was what his parents had taught him to do. Never shy away from danger, but to face it head-on. Months passed, and slowly the journey took a toll on him. He missed his parents, his home on Valtira, the safety of knowing that the world around him was familiar. Space was beautiful but isolating. There were no other voices, no other lifeforms to speak with, just the hum of Solara and the constant hum of his thoughts. But Earth still loomed ahead, always just out of reach. Zane couldn't help but wonder, what if my parents aren't there anymore? What if they've forgotten about me? He shook the thought away. His parents had promised they'd be waiting for him. They had raised him to believe in the impossible, and Zane was determined to find that impossible and make it a reality. One fateful day, a strange occurrence began to unfold. The ship's systems started to malfunction. It was subtle at first, an odd fluctuation in the power core, a slight flickering of the navigation display, but it grew worse. The lights dimmed, and the hum of the engines faltered. Zane scrambled to troubleshoot, tapping into the diagnostics panel. "What is this?" he muttered to himself, confusion rising. He worked quickly to regain control, but the issues persisted. As the ship drifted through the endless reaches of space, Zane felt a growing sense of unease. Then, the unthinkable happened. A flash of brilliant light pierced the darkness. The ship lurched violently, and the navigation panel lit up with chaotic readings. Zane's heart skipped a beat as the stars outside the viewport blurred, twisting and stretching into strange shapes. "No, no, no," Zane mumbled, struggling to stabilize Solara. But it was too late. The ship was caught in something, a gravitational anomaly that he couldn't explain. Before he could react, the world outside the ship warped entirely, and Solara was sucked into the heart of a vortex. Zane gasped as he fought to keep his grip on the controls, his pulse racing. The stars outside stretched into strange, fiery streaks, and the familiar hum of his ship's engines turned into an ominous whine, like the sound of something breaking. "Is this it?" Zane thought, panic rising in his chest. "Am I lost?" The vortex grew more intense, pulling at the ship from every direction. Zane's stomach twisted as the entire structure seemed to shudder violently, and for a split second, he felt as though the very fabric of reality was tearing apart. He closed his eyes, gripping the seat tightly, trying to steady his breathing. And then, just as quickly as it had started, the vortex released its hold. Everything stopped. The lights in the cockpit flickered once, then returned to their usual bright glow. The hum of the engines resumed its steady rhythm. Zane opened his eyes, but he couldn't believe what he saw outside the viewport. He wasn't in deep space anymore. The stars, those familiar, twinkling specks of light, had been replaced by something entirely new. There were unfamiliar planets, strange nebulae, and bizarre celestial bodies he couldn't recognize. But most shockingly, there was something in the distance. A massive structure, like a space station, suspended in orbit around a blue and green planet. "Earth?" Zane whispered, his breath catching in his throat. Had he made it? Was this truly the planet he had been searching for? Before he could process what had just happened, a warning signal blared from the control panel, a voice echoing through the ship's speakers. "Incoming transmission. Unknown origin." Zane's heart pounded in his chest. Something was about to happen. Something he couldn't yet understand. Zane's heart raced as the warning transmission echoed through the cockpit. The voice, robotic and metallic, was foreign to his ears. The words weren't in any language he recognized, but the tone was unmistakable, urgent, demanding. "Incoming transmission. Unknown origin." The lights above flickered briefly before stabilizing, and the voice repeated the message, louder this time. Zane's hand hovered over the controls, unsure of whether he should respond or try to escape. He wasn't sure what kind of danger he was dealing with. The fact that he had landed so close to Earth, was it Earth? Was overwhelming enough without adding a mysterious transmission into the mix. The massive structure floating in the distance had captured his attention, but now, the signal was the only thing that mattered. What was this place? Could it be a relic of humanity? Some remnant of a forgotten civilization? Or something else entirely? Taking a deep breath, Zane decided to answer the call. He activated the ship's communication system, focusing on the strange frequency. A wave of static flooded the cockpit, followed by an eerie silence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the screen flickered and a new voice filled the cockpit. This voice was different, calmer, but still alien. "This is the Terran Watcher. Identify yourself." Zane froze. Terran? The word was so familiar, yet so foreign. Could it be? Was it truly an Earthling, or had something else adopted the name? His mind spun with the possibilities, his thoughts racing as he tried to process the situation. His parents had always told him that Earth had changed, that it would not be the place they left behind. Was this a sign of that change? He wasn't sure how to respond. His fingers hovered above the console, his breath shallow. His mind raced through the fragments of human history his parents had shared with him. Earth had always been the cradle of humanity, but the humans who once inhabited it had long since vanished, or so he thought. Finally, Zane spoke. I'm Zane. I've come from a distant planet. I'm looking for my parents. His voice was steady, though a part of him was still unsure whether to trust the mysterious voice on the other end. There was a long pause before the voice responded, its tone shifting slightly, almost as if it was assessing him. Zane. The voice seemed to linger on his name. You have traveled far, too far. Your presence here is unexpected. Zane's stomach twisted. The words sent a chill through his spine. What did that mean? He had to know more. Why? Zane asked, his voice strong despite the anxiety threatening to overwhelm him. Why is it unexpected? I'm looking for Earth. There was a long pause, and then a new message appeared on the screen. Your journey is not over, Zane. Prepare yourself. Earth is no longer the world you remember. The words sent a shock through his body. What did that mean? Had something happened to Earth? Was his search in vain? Was Earth even the place he had imagined? Zane leaned forward, his hands gripping the controls tightly. He had no time for confusion. Earth was out there, and he had to find it. He had to know what happened, to find his parents. What's happened to Earth? Zane asked again, his voice firm. Where are the humans? The Terran Watcher's response was cryptic. The humans are gone. Earth was abandoned. But you are not alone, Zane. The voice trailed off, as if it was about to say something more, but then the communication cut off abruptly, the screen going blank. Zane stared at the empty monitor, his heart racing. Gone? He muttered, his mind struggling to comprehend what he had just heard. But why? What happened? Why would Earth be abandoned? Suddenly, an alarm blared through the cockpit. Warning. Unauthorized spacecraft detected. Prepare for immediate identification. Zane's eyes widened. Something, or someone, was approaching. Was it the source of the mysterious signal? His ship's sensors flickered, revealing a new ship coming into view. It was massive, its silhouette dark against the stars, but the ship's form was unlike anything Zane had seen before. It was sleek, with sharp angular lines and an intimidating presence. The energy readings it was emitting were unlike anything his ship could handle. What is that thing? Zane whispered, staring in awe at the colossal craft. His heart pounded as it grew closer, the sheer size of it dwarfing Solara. It wasn't just a spaceship. It was something much more powerful, something far more advanced than anything he had imagined. And it was heading straight for him. Zane quickly activated the ship's shields, preparing for a potential confrontation. His mind raced as he ran through the possible scenarios. Should he fight? Should he flee? What if this was the Terran Watcher's ship, coming to take him into custody? Or was this something even worse? The transmission had been unclear. Was Earth really gone? Was there no hope of finding his parents? The massive ship's engines flared, a burst of energy that sent shockwaves through space, and then, just as quickly, it disappeared into the folds of space, vanishing from his sensors. Zane sat frozen for a moment, his breathing shallow, trying to process what had just happened. The mysterious vessel had disappeared as quickly as it had appeared, leaving Zane alone in the vastness of space once again. What had just happened? Was this a warning, or was this the first step toward something bigger? He had no answers, but one thing was certain. He could not let this stop him. His parents were still out there. The journey wasn't over. It had only just begun. And as Zane adjusted his course toward the planet that was, somehow, Earth, the next chapter of his journey awaited. Zane's mind buzzed with a mixture of excitement and unease as Solara cut through the endless expanse of space. The strange message from the Terran Watcher haunted him, its cryptic tone lingering in the air even as the silence of space pressed in. Earth is no longer the world you remember, the voice had said. The humans are gone, but there was more. You are not alone. What did that mean? Who was he not alone with? Was this some kind of trap? Or was there still hope for humanity's return? His fingers tightened around the controls as he adjusted his ship's course, focusing on the massive blue and green planet that lay just ahead. It looked like Earth, but everything in him screamed that it couldn't be. It was too different, too still. As he got closer, the planet grew larger in the viewport. He could see cities now, crumbling, abandoned ruins of places that looked eerily familiar, but different. The architecture was unlike anything from the Earth he had studied. Huge skyscrapers with cracked, decaying surfaces, and broken roads stretching out like veins across the planet's surface. It was a desolate image, not the vibrant, bustling world his parents had described. Zane's heart sank. He had always imagined Earth as a thriving, vibrant world, full of bustling cities and people going about their daily lives. But this Earth felt empty, abandoned, cold, a graveyard for the lost dreams of humankind. The ship's sensors pinged, warning him that there was unusual activity on the planet's surface. He hadn't expected life to be so readily detectable. He had assumed the world would be completely void of civilization. What is that? He thought, eyes narrowing at the data scrolling across his screen. There, on the edge of a ruined city, something moved. A group of figures. At first, Zane thought they were scavengers or survivors. Humans, perhaps, but changed by whatever had caused the fall of Earth. But as the figures came into focus, he could see that they weren't human at all. They were tall and thin, with elongated limbs and skin that shimmered in the sunlight. Their eyes glowed faintly, and their movements were fluid, almost unnatural. The way they interacted with the environment, using advanced technology to scan the ruins, was like something out of a dream, something Zane couldn't quite place. He felt a cold rush of fear grip his chest. Who are they? His instincts screamed that they weren't enemies, at least, not yet. But the mystery of their existence only added to the already overwhelming uncertainty of the situation. Zane had to find answers. He had to find out if any humans were still alive, if there was a chance that his parents were among the survivors. Zane didn't hesitate. He initiated the landing sequence. The Solara descended slowly toward the surface of Earth, its engines humming softly as it cut through the thick atmosphere. The ship shook slightly as it passed through layers of clouds, and then finally, with a soft thud, it touched down. Zane took a deep breath, his hands trembling slightly as he powered down the ship's systems. The door to the ship opened with a hiss, and Zane stepped out onto Earth's soil for the first time. The air smelled strange, different from the clean, crisp air of Valtira. It was thicker, almost stale, with a faint metallic scent. He could feel the gravity pulling him down, stronger than it had been on his home planet, but not overwhelming. He adjusted quickly, standing firm on the cracked earth beneath his boots. The ground was hard and dusty. Everywhere he looked, there were ruins, broken buildings, shattered windows, abandoned vehicles. It looked like the planet had been abandoned long ago, left to fall apart with no one left to take care of it. Zane turned his eyes toward the figures in the distance, still moving around the ruins. He felt drawn to them, compelled to understand who, or what, they were. Slowly, he walked toward them, the crunch of his boots on the broken pavement echoing in the eerie silence. The closer he got, the more he could see their features clearly. They weren't human, at least, not anymore. Their faces were sharp, almost angular, with eyes too large and too bright. Their movements were smooth, like they were gliding, and their skin shimmered under the sunlight in a way that felt almost unnatural. As Zane approached, one of them turned to look at him, its glowing eyes locking onto his. For a moment, they simply stood there, staring at each other in silence. Then, to Zane's surprise, the figure spoke. "You're different," it said, its voice echoing in his mind rather than through sound. Zane flinched at the unexpected mental communication, but the figure did not seem to notice his shock. "You are not from here." Zane swallowed, unsure how to respond. But he had no time to waste. He had to find answers. "I'm Zane," he said aloud, his voice rough but steady. "I've come from another planet." I'm looking for my parents. They were once from Earth. The figure studied him for a moment, its eyes narrowing. It seemed to be processing his words. Then, it nodded slowly. You are seeking those who left long ago, it said, its voice calm and distant. The ones who vanished, but they are not here. Zane's heart dropped. Not here? What did that mean? Had his parents left Earth? Had they been part of whatever catastrophe had befallen the planet? Where are they? Zane asked, his voice desperate now. I need to know where my parents are. The figure tilted its head slightly, its glowing eyes softening. There is no easy answer, it said. The humans you seek are not gone in the way you believe. But the truth is lost. The remnants of Earth's past have been buried beneath layers of time, change, and memory. What remains is a fractured history. Zane's mind raced, struggling to process the cryptic message. What do you mean? Where are they? The figure turned away, walking toward a cluster of other beings in the distance. Without turning back, it spoke once more. You will find the answers where the ruins are buried. Go to the city of the forgotten. The truth lies there. And with that, the figure disappeared into the crowd of strange beings, leaving Zane standing alone in the ruins of Earth, his heart pounding in his chest. Zane didn't know what to make of what he had just heard. His parents weren't gone. They hadn't disappeared entirely. But if they weren't here, then where were they? And what did the figure mean by the city of the forgotten? A new sense of urgency settled over him. He had to find the city of the forgotten, whatever it was. He had to uncover the truth about his parents and about Earth itself. But he wasn't alone. There were other beings here, watching him, waiting for him to make his next move. And whatever secrets this planet held, Zane was about to uncover them. Zane's mind whirred as he stood among the alien figures, all of them silently observing him. The words of the shimmering figure echoed in his mind. Go to the city of the forgotten. The truth lies there. What did it mean? What was this place? This Earth that had become so alien to him? The planet was a ghost of its former self, abandoned, its cities crumbling. But there was something hidden beneath the surface, something important. The city of the forgotten. If that was where the answers lay, then that was where he would go. He didn't wait any longer. The alien beings had given him no further answers, only cryptic riddles. But Zane wasn't the kind of person to sit back and wait for others to explain the world to him. He would find the city, and he would uncover the truth about his parents, and about what had happened to Earth. Turning from the group of strange figures, Zane set off toward what looked like the remnants of an ancient city on the horizon. From what he could see, it appeared to be one of the last remaining urban centers on Earth, albeit in ruins. Towering spires of glass and steel poked through the overgrown vegetation, and shattered roads wound like cracked veins through the city's skeleton. The air was thick with the scent of decay and dust, and the once bustling streets now lay silent, save for the occasional sound of distant movement. Zane's pulse quickened as he walked through the ruins, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. Each step felt like an echo of the past, a connection to a world that had been lost. He could feel it in his bones. Something was here, something that had been waiting for him, waiting for someone to uncover its secrets. As he ventured deeper into the city, Zane noticed the remnants of what once had been advanced human technology, dormant machines and flickering data terminals, abandoned but eerily well-preserved. They were remnants of an Earth that had once reached for the stars, a world where civilization had thrived. But that was before, what? Before everything changed, before the humans vanished. Finally, Zane reached a massive, overgrown structure, a skyscraper that had once been a symbol of humanity's power and innovation. The building was partially intact, its broken windows revealing a sprawling, ruined interior. Vines and plants had begun to reclaim the building, creeping through the cracks and snaking up the walls. This, Zane realized, must have been the city of the forgotten. There was a sense of heaviness here, as though the building held the memories of the past within its walls, waiting for someone to uncover them. He stepped into the darkened lobby, his footsteps echoing as he made his way toward a set of elevators that had long stopped working. There was something almost sacred about this place. Something that made Zane feel as though he were walking in the footsteps of those who had lived here long ago. But it was also a place of mystery. A place where the past had been buried under layers of dust and time. As Zane made his way deeper into the building, his mind raced with questions. What had happened to Earth? Where were the humans? And most importantly, what happened to my parents? A low hum suddenly filled the air, and the dim lights flickered back to life, casting an eerie glow over the abandoned lobby. Zane paused, his senses on high alert. The hum grew louder, and then, without warning, a voice came through the speakers, soft and distorted, as though coming from a long-forgotten machine. Zane. The voice said, barely audible but unmistakable. His heart skipped a beat. The voice sounded familiar, and yet distant, like a memory that had been buried deep within him. Zane, if you're hearing this, you've come too far. The truth is not what you think it is. There are things that you do not understand. Things that must remain hidden, even now. Zane's heart pounded in his chest. The voice. It sounded so much like the voice of his mother. No, Zane whispered, stepping forward. He had to know more. The voice was telling him something crucial, something he couldn't ignore. The hum grew louder as Zane made his way to a nearby control panel, its flickering lights offering the only source of illumination in the darkened building. He pulled open the panel and found a series of encrypted files, records that had been hidden away for centuries, protected by advanced security measures. His fingers moved quickly over the keys as he bypassed the encryption. Finally, the files unlocked, and a series of holographic images materialized before him. The first was a recording of his parents, his mother and father. They were standing in front of a strange, glowing portal, their faces serious but determined. "We've made the decision," his father's voice echoed, his face appearing older, wearier than Zane remembered. "We must leave Earth. It's no longer safe here. But the galaxy, it holds promise. We have to trust that Zane will understand. One day, he will find us." Zane's chest tightened as the images flickered. His parents had known something. They had known that Earth was doomed, that the world they had once called home could no longer be saved. They had made a choice to leave, to protect Zane, to ensure that he would live. The next image was a transmission from a different voice, one Zane didn't recognize. "The path is not an easy one," the voice warned. "The human's departure has triggered something, a shift in the very fabric of reality. It is too dangerous to stay. You must follow the coordinates we've provided, or else you will be lost." The transmission ended abruptly, and Zane stood there, stunned. The truth was starting to unfold, but it only raised more questions. What had happened to Earth? What had his parents gotten involved with? Before Zane could process any further, the building shuddered. A low rumble filled the air, and dust began to fall from the ceiling. He could hear the sound of something massive moving in the distance, something far too large to ignore. Zane's heart raced. He had to move. The city of the Forgotten was revealing its secrets, but something darker was waiting. The building was beginning to collapse. He couldn't stay here much longer. With a final glance at the flickering images of his parents, Zane turned and ran, his mind ablaze with the truth he was beginning to uncover. But the danger was far from over. The answers he sought were not just hidden in the ruins of Earth. They were tangled in a web of mystery that stretched across the stars. And something, was hunting him now. Zane's heart hammered as the building trembled violently beneath his feet. The low rumble that had echoed through the city was growing louder, and he could feel the walls shaking, the ground cracking. The city of the Forgotten, was falling apart around him. His breath was ragged as he sprinted through the crumbling corridors of the skyscraper, the weight of the revelations crashing down on him. His parents had left Earth, not out of choice, but out of necessity. The galaxy, it seemed, had been fraught with danger. Something had shifted, and Earth, the cradle of humanity, was no longer safe. As he turned a corner, a loud crash reverberated through the hallway, and Zane skidded to a halt. His eyes locked onto the source of the noise. A large section of the building's outer wall had collapsed, revealing it W. Not just any ship, but one unlike anything Zane had ever seen. It was enormous, far bigger than the Solara, and it had a sleek M. The ship Wa. With. His mind was racing. What was that ship? Who had built it? The voice from. As he neared Th. Zane. T. You have come too far, child. Zane. I am the guardian of the forgotten. And you, Zane, are not supposed to be here. Zane took a sweet. The figure regarded him silently for a moment, its glowing eyes scanning Zane with an intensity that sent a chill down his spine. Your parents chose to leave this world long ago, the guardian replied, but they did not leave alone. They made a pact, a decision that bound them to forces beyond your comprehension. Zane's heart skipped. A pact? What kind of pact could his parents have made? What could possibly be more important than their own son? They sought to protect you, the guardian continued. But in doing so, they altered the course of time itself. The fate of Earth was sealed the moment they made that choice. And now, you stand on the precipice of what was never meant to be. Zane clenched his fists, his mind racing. What are you talking about? He demanded. What happened to Earth? Where are my parents? The guardian's eyes glowed brighter as it stepped forward, its form becoming more tangible. It was massive, towering over Zane, yet it didn't feel threatening. Instead, it radiated a sense of deep knowledge, like it had witnessed the birth and death of civilizations. The humans left, it said softly, its voice carrying a weight of sorrow. But their departure was not by choice. They had no other option. Earth is no longer the cradle of humankind. Zane took a step back, his breath coming quicker now. The guardian's words were sinking in, but the truth was so overwhelming he could barely grasp it. Earth was lost? The guardian raised its hand again, and the air around them shimmered. Suddenly, Zane was no longer standing in the ruins of Earth. Instead, he found himself on a vast, starry landscape, surrounded by floating shards of glass-like structures, some broken, some still intact, floating through space. This, the guardian said, is where the truth lies. Earth was never the only home for humanity. It was merely the first. The pact your parents made was not just for their survival. It was for the survival of humanity's future. The real question is not where they went, but why they left. Zane's mind spun as the scene around him shifted. The stars seemed to bend and twist, revealing images of his parents, young, determined, standing in front of a massive portal, surrounded by a group of beings that looked almost like them, but different. They were human, but not quite. Their faces were the same, but their eyes glowed with a strange energy. The human race, the guardian continued, its voice now carrying a deep sadness, has always been on the edge of destruction. But there is hope. There is a way forward, a way to preserve what is left. Your parents understood this. Suddenly, everything went dark. Zane's heart raced. He was back in the ruined building, standing before the dark ship. The ground trembled again, the ship's engines roaring to life. A low hum filled the air, and the doors to the ship slowly closed, as if beckoning him to follow. If you wish to find the truth, the guardian's voice echoed in his mind, you must board this ship. But be warned, the journey ahead is not for the faint of heart. You are about to walk a path that few have ever walked before. Zane hesitated. His parents had made the ultimate sacrifice for humanity's survival. Now, it was his turn. He wasn't just searching for answers. He was part of a larger story, one that spanned across galaxies and eons. He looked one last time at the ruins of Earth, the place that had once been home. Then, with a final deep breath, Zane turned toward the ship. The journey ahead would be long and dangerous, but it was the only way to discover the truth, to uncover the fate of his parents, and the future of humanity itself. He stepped inside, and the doors closed behind him. Zane's heart raced as the massive doors of the ship slid closed behind him, sealing him within its cold, metallic interior. The air inside was charged with energy, and he could feel a faint hum vibrating through his body. He had no idea where this ship would take him or what challenges lay ahead, but one thing was certain: there was no turning back. The ship's interior was unlike anything Zane had ever seen. It was sleek, glowing softly with an ethereal light that seemed to come from within the walls themselves. The layout was strange, with shifting corridors and rooms that seemed to reconfigure themselves as he moved. It was like being inside a living, breathing organism, a ship that was not Jay. He stepped forward, his boots making no sound on the smooth, polished floor. The ship's walls pulsed with faint cymbals, and a strange, melodic hum filled the air, almost as though the ship itself was alive. A deep sense of awe washed over him as he moved deeper into. As Zane walked, he could feel the ship's energy responding to his presence. It was as if it recognized him, as if it knew who he was and what he was here for. He could feel the weight of the knowledge it carried, the secrets it held, and the power that pulsed through its very. After what felt like an eternity, Zane found himself standing in front of a large, circular chamber. The door slid open in response to his proximate. The chamber was vast, its walls lined with ancient symbols and glowing lights that shifted in patterns Zane couldn't understand. In the center of the room was a T. Zane felt a wave of anticipation wash over him. This was it, the answers he had been searching for. Suddenly, "We made this choice." His father's voice resonated in Zane's mind. "We did it to protect you, to protect humanity. But the cost was greater than we could have ever imagined. The galaxy is not the same place it once was. And now, you must finish what we street." Zane felt a lump form in his throat. Finish what they started. The sphere. The portal is a doorway to the future. It connects all of time and space. Your parents understood its power. They knew that Earth was only the beginning of a much larger story. The human race must transcend its origins and become something more, something that can survive beyond the stars. Zane's mind spun as the vision unfolded before him. The portal was not just a way to travel between worlds. It was a bridge, a conduit to an unknown future. And his parents had been the first to understand it. They had made a decision to protect humanity from something. They made the ultimate sacrifice, to protect you, to protect all of humanity. The truth of Earth's downfall is bound to the power of the portal. But it cannot be unlocked until you are ready to understand it. Zane's pulse quickened as the realization hit him. He wasn't just looking for his parents anymore. He was standing at the threshold of a new chapter in humanity's existence. The Earth he had known, this broken, decaying world, was gone. But there was still hope. There was still a future, a path forward, and it lay be. But the journey ahead would not be easy. The power of the portal was beyond comprehension, and Zane knew that there would be those who would stop at nothing to control it. The dangers he would face would be unimaginable, but he couldn't turn back. He had to keep going. With a final, deep breath, Zane stepped back from the Nexus. The ship hummed with energy, and the symbols on the walls seemed to glow bright. The ship's engines roared to life as the doors of the chamber opened, and the vast expanse of space stretched out before him. Zane stood tall, the weight of his decision settling on his shoulders. He was no longer just the son of his parents. He was the heir to a legacy that spanned the stars. "I'm ready," Zane whispered to himself, his voice filled with resolve. "I will finish what you started, Mom, Dad." And with that, he turned toward the cockpit, where the ship's controls awaited him. The stars beckoned, and beyond them, the answers he sought. He wasn't just looking for the truth anymore. He was on the brink of discovering the future of humanity. As the ship surged forward, tearing through the fabric of space, Zane knew that his journey was only beginning. And no matter where it took him, he would follow the path his parents had set before him, no matter the cost. The stars would tell him the rest, and the truth would be revealed.